Everybody ready? Turn your mics on. And welcome to the August school board meeting. We're going to step right into the working session. I don't hear anybody. I don't see a citizens forum out there. So let's go right to board reports, and specifically let's go to the business office first, where Sheena Brandt is going to offer up an remote audio on what's going on.
Hi, I'm sorry we cannot get the video to work, but you can hear me, so that's a positive. So the next month we'll be working on audit and closing the books on 2022. So we'll be doing a lot of journal entries, and the auditors actually come, I believe, August 22nd even, or it's for a solid week that they'll be on site.
But it's in September, right, Shana?
Yes, it's in September. So I'll be continuing to work on closing the books and making journal entries and moving funds so that we're spending everything and coding everything correctly and spending down in all areas. So right now I'm providing more of a summary on June, like I had mentioned, the final for 2022. So if you look at the revenue and expenditures summary by source, object, series, and program. The state, we revised the budget for a revenue of $4,858,594. We have currently received over $5 million. So that's a positive that we're trending higher for revenue. And then federal, we budget to receive $941,000. And we've currently received $502,562, but we'll be receiving in more grant dollars. And I did indicate that on another attachment. We will be getting $13,231 from ARP Summer Finance 150, COVID Testing Finance 170, $16,511.95, and then ESSER 3, $355,197.08, for a total of $384,000. So we should be pretty close to budget on the federal dollars. Property taxes. We budget to receive $1,420,826. We have already received $1,825.46. I also did find a check that we received but didn't actually receipt in that I'll move back into June 2022. So we'll be getting another $495,415.27. So that's really good also. So overall, with just Lake of the Woods County, will be basically receiving in more revenue than what we expected. And that total is $91,195.27. If you look at just my finance committee meeting sheet, the summary, we had planned, we will receive $384,940.15. but we are also going to move $147,336.58 to FY23 instead of spending it in FY22. So currently, we're showing a deficit of $1,409,506.62. But once we receive in the federal grant dollars and the county, the amount from county that needs to be moved back, we're going to have a deficit of $529,151.20. We budget for a deficit of $268,699.11. So the difference in deficit is $260,452.09 more than what we projected. I still feel this is really close and it's really good considering how much ESSER dollars we decided to move ahead to 2023. So overall, our expenditures, our salaries and benefits are 23% above what we projected. Our purchase and contract services are 11% above what was projected. Our instructional supplies are 9% above what was projected. But our capital supplies, capital equipment and projects are 84% of what was budgeted. But we did move some projects to 2023 that we budget for there, which brought it down for 2022. So I did mention in the finance meeting that I would like the board to also approve our credit card statement each month along with the checks. It's good practice to have the school board review all wire payments and even the credit card bill. So that's something that I did attach. It wasn't reconciled, but in the future we're going to start doing that. So any questions on the summary?
I'll start with a very specific one. In terms of approving the wire payments and the credit card costs, is that something we just do on a consent agenda, or is that something that
we were talking about?
Yes.
That. So Sheena and I will talk about what makes the most sense. Whether we pull that and put it in the regular new business or put it in the consent agenda.
We thought whatever was best from an audit perspective, whatever made that smooth, that we would try to do it like that. So there'll be some discussion about that.
So
we did discuss during finance.
She provided an example that's very specific that would be more in the your regular business motions where you're actually approving payments of bills, check number, or whatever, through check number, whatever, for this amount, very specific. Where we don't do that right now in the consent agenda, it's just implied because it's sent and listed. So she and I will have a talk on what we think would be the best way to do the financials and bring a recommendation to the board.
Right. Do you currently have a motion to approve checks?
It's under, we have a consent agenda and it's just listed invoices and statements, but it's very general and it's just.
Oh, got it.
Makes the assumption that everyone's gonna look through all the check statements and all that stuff.
Perfect.
But we can talk about that and if we wanna adjust that and change how we do business so it's more transparent.
No, that's fine. We just want to make sure that the board is reviewing the checks each month and approving them, is it, and all the transactions.
Okay, other questions?
Well, and a question that I had, maybe I should mention it, that deficit is the overall deficit, not the deficit from the general fund. So remember that when you're, when she's talking about the deficit, because our general fund does not have a deficit, it has an excess, so.
So the 268,000 deficit is out of Fund 4, which is community ed, which is the pool. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
That was, when I first looked at it, that was a question for me, so I thought it might be a question for someone else.
Okay, that's good.
And don't get thrown off with the 260 difference. That's different than deficit, because I looked at that. So that's just the difference in what you budgeted.
Different in budgeted deficit.
Okay.
No. So it's
And-
not, difference does not mean deficit, so it's not. So,
The salaries and benefits, 23% above what was projected.
contract settlements, it could be higher sub-cost. We had like a COVID coordinator that we use ESSER dollars for. So there's some of
Right.
those things that kind of contributed to that overage.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, because our expectation as we sat and negotiated those contracts was we were falling within the
The
parameters of budget
Right,
at that point.
yeah.
Yep.
So is there an effort being made right now to make sure we are on track? And I understand that it's a lot of transition right now too, so, but,
Well, I looked at, the specifics. The 23 reflects an average of like 4 different expenditure lines in that statement, as I remember, and I forgot my computer to point them out. But the ones that were higher was the sub-costs were significantly higher.
Sub-costs were more.
I think we were up quite a bit there. And then the licensed teacher salaries were about 23.5%, 24% up. And I just wondered how that balloons in terms of or did we hire more paras? Did we hire more?
Also, we had that one-time payment, which is
yeah,
not hero pay, but
that, it was done out of, was it Esther?
it was ESSER dollars.
Yeah, the COVID stipends.
Bonus.
Stipends,
COVID bonus.
Oh, so that reflects that.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes a lot of
So I
sense there
think,
then.
I think those extra payments
Okay,
were not budgeted within salaries, just the
Yep.
percentage of increase and benefits and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that all the extra COVID incentives and extra positions is where that is.
okay,
But as our enrollment goes down,
yeah.
so, in our budget, we're enrollment wise, well, I don't want to take up your time, but in my budget report, where we're at with enrollment is where we're at with FY23 budget. So as far as pupil counts.
Okay, further questions? Okay, well, appreciate that. Thank you for appearing or not appearing, whatever
Yeah.
you call that, but thank you. I guess that.
Thank
again,
you.
I think I said that last time. I do appreciate the page of explanation. It does point out things that, and obviously where the questions came up, were things that you saw that needed to be addressed as well. So I think we're getting on the same page with what we want to know.
Yeah. If you need anything different, just let me know. Maybe some of my wording. I think I scared Jeff.
That's all right. I need that once in a while. All right.
Okay.
Keeps me.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Gina.
Yeah, bye.
All right, and segueing right into Superintendent Nelson's report.
Okay. So like I mentioned, our district total numbers, I might be off on I have a couple of adjustments. I think we're at 428 or 427. Elementary is up to 238, I think last month I reported, and these are projections. I think I reported 237. So we have a couple kindergartners, I think we reported 39 last month. We have 38 confirmed, and we're waiting for 2 that have not enrolled, so we're not counting those anymore. So, and then the rest of the numbers were stable. Our second grade, we're up to 24 kids now, and we've already made the adjustment to go to 2 sections for this coming school year with that group, for a number of reasons. High school, it's about a wash as far as incoming and outgoing. I think they're at 189, I believe. So we're hovering right around that 426, 428 students, which is kind of what we're using for budgetary numbers. Couple highlights. I don't have an official safe in-person learning plan to be approved. It needs to be approved every 6 months. I think the last time we did it was like February, March. And there's been a lot of changes. So I'm just going to highlight the changes and how we're going to operate. But we'll have some kind of document for the board to approve at our next board meeting in September. Some significant changes, and we're kind of shifting from pandemic to living with COVID. That's how I view it. So we will not be conducting any Q tests this coming year. Number one, they're not being provided to the schools. The school will purchase them. I don't think that's a good expense for our general ed dollars. Tierra did do a grant to get some home tests, so we'll be able to have home tests available to send home to parents and kids, as long as we can cover that with grant money.
And, okay, so that would not be a cost
It's
to the school.
through the grants or through the Department of Health. So right now, we'll provide them as long as they're provided to the district. At this time, I wouldn't recommend that the district purchase those. There's no quarantine required for close contacts. That's pretty much gone. For those that test positive and report to the school, the recommendation is for isolation for 5 days. For those testing positive, and masking for 5 days when returning to school. They really highlight, if you go onto their site, the important thing is the first initial 5 days. But not everyone has symptoms, not everyone tests, so it's just kind of do the best you can. The district will not have to submit and report red cap, and that was all of our positives, all the testing we did. Anytime there was a positive, we had a long survey form to fill out and send in. We don't have to do that anymore. But we'll have to report, I believe it's weekly, maybe monthly summative reports on these are the numbers of students and staff that have been reported to the district as far as being positive. Also in your board packet I mailed out, there's some links that those are basically links I'm using to come up with their plan. Department of Health in Minnesota always lags behind the CDC, but they usually say that they will follow the CDC recommendations. So basically, we're at the point where if you're not feeling well, stay home. At least 5 days or until you're feeling better. And that's for anything nowadays. So, any questions on that?
I look at or I think about the potential for that 5-day post quarantine, now masking for 5 days. I mean, just trying to avoid the unhappiness that might ensue in that. Do we offer the option, for instance, of saying you can stay home for 10 days if you want, or something of that nature, so you don't get the whole mask controversy thrown in your face again?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of.
You know,
To me, it's.
Didn't
if you-
CDC just change that? I thought,
I think they recommend that.
oh, really?
Recommend.
Recommend.
Well, my thought is if you stayed home, if you didn't want your kid to wear a mask, keep him home for 5 more days, you know, that kind
And
of
I,
thing.
that's something that we have to work out too, is,
Yeah,
I don't know
well,
if we
and I
could
was just thinking
require
about, that, you know, from the onset of symptoms, usually 5 days or, you know,
And it's, a lot of it is, the nursing homes, hospital situations
Yeah.
that may push more for the mask.
right.
I do not see us
Well, and I think they
enforcing any
still
masking.
are masking, aren't they, in healthcare?
Yeah,
There's still what?
Masking in healthcare, I think.
some institutions
Some.
are, yeah.
That's all I thought. I was thinking the dental office last time I went, I don't think I had the mask.
So, I guess the only thing that we could try to push would be, you know, if you call in and say my child tested positive, then keep them home for 5 days. Or until they're at least 5 days, and if their symptoms continue, keep them home until their symptoms are done. So,
Basically like any other illness,
basically,
Good deal.
yes. Yep,
until your symptoms are 24 hours gone or whatever.
something like that, yeah. So Tiara and I will be working on that, but it's probably gonna be very much what we've done pre-COVID.
And you'll have that in time for that?
Probably won't be as lengthy and detailed as the old one,
That's okay.
so that one's kinda on the wayside, so.
Did we have one before COVID? Like, is it something we always have to have?
No, that's a new development.
Because it's, I mean, it's always been something since I've been here. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
we used to
I
have
mean, do we have to have one?
policy,
Do we really have to do it?
we used to have, you know, if they're running a fever, they need to stay home. If they're can't control their secretions and snotting over everywhere, keep them home. I mean, there's just some common
Practices that
practices
we've
that we
had.
used to do, yeah.
Okay.
The notice just came out today though from, what was it, MSBA update that you have to maintain your safe
Learning
learning.
plan.
Yes.
Yes, every 6 months.
In order to be eligible for the
Yes.
funding.
So
So it's
ours
just
is
probably going
not
to be a
6
new
months
thing that
over,
they're
but
going to
it'll
make
be,
us do.
yeah, we're-
Until the money goes away and then you don't have to do it anymore.
we're in compliance.
Okay.
We have a plan.
I was just curious.
Yeah. And I've just presented a plan of how we're gonna start the school year, and we'll formalize that. So by September board meeting, we'll have an official safe plan. That will have to be reviewed every 6 months. Any other questions on that? Kitchen freezer, one of our freezers went kaput, and we lost about $3,800, mostly in commodities. I haven't had a chance to connect with Seth, but he and Dale were working on the repairs, and Sheena was gonna check on if we get any kind of insurance coverage for the loss in food. Fall in-service schedule. Our open house and orientation is on August 30th. Teachers start on 29th. And that's when we have most of the, that's our all, what we consider our all staff in-service day is the 29th. And that will run through the 31st. Open house on the 30th. We have 7th grade orientation at 5 p.m. Maybe you have this in your report already. See, I always look at hers. No. I'll let her tell you when the high school open house stuff is, but it's twice in your minutes, so you shouldn't miss it. No, I am looking at yours. Your thing is right next to mine. I'm done.
Okay.
I just had I was just gonna say open house and orientation on August 30th, and I started looking at Mary's notes, because that's the next page in my thing.
Keep going.
I'm just a control freak. I'm sorry. I'm done.
I knew you started rambling there. You're talking about ice cream. Okay, it's time to move on.
I'm done. Sorry.
Any questions for the superintendent?
Wondering if he's tired.
All
Too
right,
much vacation.
hearing none, let's move on to high school principal Mary Merchant.
Good evening. Yeah, my report will be short. It's been a quiet month.
Plus, it's been plagiarized. I mean, this could be.
He was just quoting me.
There you go.
Yeah, 7th grade orientation is at 5, 9th grade at 6 in the evening. Last year was the first year we did 9th grade orientation, and I am so glad that I did. It was a great turnout from parents and students, and it really helped set the stage for realizing these are your credits towards graduation. Following the open house, I had parents call me, and they came in and we met last year to really get that 4-year planning in place. So that was very good, and we'll continue to do it this way. And then Muriel Crandall has been in to get all of the computers, because the kids handed in computers, bags, and not everything was quite handed in at the same time. And so she's been in sorting them out and putting them in order, so the 7th through 12th graders will be able to pick them up Tuesday evening. So that'll be one less thing to interrupt class time the following Tuesday. And then at our cabinet meeting, that just last week, conversation took place. Lisa shared how it's been a struggle with lifeguards and looking at training more. And so after the meeting, Lisa and Sam and I met, and I'm asking the board to support that we have an elective credit for students that pursue their lifeguards, so then they track the hours that they work, and it'd be able to be an elective credit. And like my board report says, it's still determined whether some of the fees to go for the class would be waived and how much. So we're kind of still in discussion stage with that, but want to get the word out to the kids, because, we want to support the pool. We are so fortunate to have it and part of our school that it really could be a good working relationship, and getting your certification is something kids can use for their lifetime. So, any questions about that?
I have a question about the orientation again. Do we continue to offer up the syllabus from each, I assume it's English courses mostly, but at least so that this is the moment, or the parents go online to, check what their kids are reading during the course of the next semester? Is that when this occurs on their?
You mean that evening? So
Yeah.
when it's the open house and parents go into the individual classrooms, not necessarily. I'm going to say more of that's going to take place between teachers and students that first day of school, or the first couple days of school. And then parents are encouraged to go on Synergy or Schoology to look at what it is. And I think it's going to be very helpful that when they go into parent view, that now they have to re-update information, and same thing like the student handbook. But the course handbook with like explaining classes and what's required and everything, all that's on the website. So I mean, that's accessible already. Now, if you're talking individual classes and what's required for that class, I don't think it's
Probably more so, but yeah. Okay.
Quick question. You were talking about the 7th and 9th grade orientation being at 5 and 6 p.m. Which day was that?
August 30th,
August 30th.
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay, more questions?
Yeah, I do on the lifeguarding.
Do you think it would start right away this fall? You're not quite ready yet?
Well, we would be ready, but kids wouldn't be certified
Yeah.
yet. So I'm really looking at it something that could start second. Well, here's the deal. Let's just say kids would get certified this fall, It's gonna be a matter of the hours you put in. So the hours equal to a semester, they work that many hours. Well, it could be feasible to get a credit yet first semester, depending on when they get certified. Especially if they're working over Christmas break.
So it'd almost be like a non-school hour.
Yes, yes, it'd be outside of school hours when they would be earning their credits.
And that's a credit that is, and that's a valid credit?
Oh, absolutely, yep. We put it down as an elective credit. Because we will write up the criteria for it so that everybody can see it and.
And does Lisa, can she do the crediting? Like, is she?
No, she doesn't teach the class, and we talked about that, and I don't know if you were there, Sam, I was thinking you mentioned like earliest you could start is October.
Yeah, so the lifeguard class itself is the first 2 weekends in October. Those are Friday evening, Saturday, all day Saturday,
Okay.
and maybe a little on Sunday. I'm not sure the exact, but it's a weekend event on that Friday and Saturday. Or I think it's the 3rd and 4th, 7th and 8th, those first 2 weekends. So, and that's both instructional time in here, if they do the class in here, and then pool time as well. That's definitely they practice in terms of the diving test and the
All their practical.
yeah, the practical
classes.
stuff, rescues and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Does that include CRP certification as well?
Yes, CPR and first aid. CPR, AED, and first aid certification.
So it would be like the 7th and 8th and the 14th and 15th of
Yeah, I think
October?
so.
That's
Whatever
right.
those first 2.
Yeah. The October actually starts on the 1st, but it's a Saturday.
Yeah, maybe it's that week. I don't know. I'd have
Yeah.
to look. I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah,
Maybe in my cabinet.
not a big issue.
Is this something, Jeff, that we would need to approve as a board formally, or, I think it's a good idea, I'm just curious about.
We can do that, if, like in September,
Like,
required.
because we don't approve any other class
Well, that's, I don't know.
courses.
Usually when it's on the schedule and you approve the course handbook, and to me, when we present the high school schedule.
But was that on the schedule when we approved that?
No, so I could actually do an updated schedule in
That was-
case we have
that was what I was-
other changes and bring it to September's meeting.
That was what I was thinking, that we would need to approve the change.
I think it's the bigger thing is, I know when we brought in welding, there was concerns about cost and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just so we understand that as we add things, a good idea.
Mary, you and I can work maybe through a one-pager on some of the details, but we still have to figure out some of the costs. Like, would students get a reduced cost for the class and then they get reimbursed the amount that that there's some financial piece there that they are taking on some financial burden by taking the class, and so we just have to work out some of those details. So we can work that out and put something in front of you in September.
More questions? Okay, thank you. That's what you got. Thank you. Where are we going? Sam, you were talking, so Activities Director and Community Ed, Santa Monica.
Activities report, update on fall numbers, and these are a little bit in flux because junior high football started today and we're still getting a few kids registered, so these are approximate. We have 6 kids, 6 through 12 out for cross country, 1 added today, it's exciting. 20 kids right now out for junior high football as of right now. Of course, their first practice is happening right now, so we'll get that number more precise once they come in. 27 out for 9 through 12 football. 18 out for 6 through 8 volleyball. and 27 out through 9 through 12 volleyball. So good numbers across the board there. I'm excited about that. Next week, Monday, we hit the ground running with all of our events, as in we're hosting a home cross-country meet. We have a home volleyball game against Colonel Beltrami. This is Monday, August 29th. And have a home football, JV football game. Of course, then, varsity football will play on Fridays. I think we have another game next week, Thursday, at home for volleyball. And then both volleyball and football are out for jamborees this week and this weekend. So things are happening with fall activities, which is fun. Community ed report, a few of our class offerings for this fall. We are doing an elementary flag football, which has been people are wanting that, so I'm excited about that. That's 3rd through 5th grade flag football. Saturday mornings will be with several volunteers, but kind of supported by our high school football team. So a lot of our high school football players will be helping in that, which is a really meaningful way to get kids invested and excited about the sport, as well as getting our older kids out volunteering and helping with that. We'll do a firearm safety course the second week of school. We have moved driver's ed to the summer of June, so June 2023. You'll remember last year we started it in September, ran into a lot of conflicts with activities. We then decided to move it to March, hoping to slot it right between the two sports seasons, which ended up overlapping with a lot of our music time. And so and then was a challenge for our instructor who's driving from Warroad to do the back and forth all of those nights a week, running through weather and things. So for his request and some scheduling, we decided to move it to June. That's when he does it in Warroad, so he'll do classes in Warroad in the morning and the afternoon, and we'll do a session with us in the evening. And then Behind the Wheel will take place in the summer months after that. Any questions on that before I go on? Overall activity stuff. Early learners, I thought Jeff was going to report on it, so he stole from Mary and then forgot. So we are currently for school readiness, and you'll remember this from the last meeting. We are having 2 separate classrooms. Head Start is going to do a Head Start classroom. School readiness with Nicole Gate is going to be their own classroom. We have a cap of 20 students, 20 slots available in that class. We are currently at 17, 5 of which, or I should say 12 of which are VPK funding eligible. So voluntary pre-K funding eligible. There's a date range, you have to hit a certain birth date to get eligible for that. And then 5 seats that are non-VPK eligible. Those folks will potentially have to pay for, that is a new thing this year, a maximum of $80 a month for those slots. They do not fit the date range required. And so we have 3 spots available as of right now. There was a flurry of activity about 2 weeks ago where we had kids adding and dropped. I kind of expect that we'll have a little bit more of that flurry here before they start. So we'll see how that happens. In terms of filling those spots, and this is even an update for Jeff, I looked at the kindergarten for the pre-K screening list that we have, and there are 3 kids on that list who are age eligible to fit those VPK spots. So we're going to make some outreach to them to see if they would like a spot in the classroom. Any questions on that?
So our 15 seats are prioritized for children that are 4 by September 1st of the school year. And then the 5 other seats for this year, we're able to extend that to the end of September.
So serving just 4-year-olds for 4 days a week. So. Okay. Excited to announce or put in front of you a head hockey coach job offer, Dallas Block. We are excited he coached me in sports, and so I'm excited to see him stepping up and being excited about that job. I don't think that we could have anybody more keeping the tension of the concern for development of a young man, as well as the kind of integrity of the sport. And he holds those things in concert incredibly well. He has nothing but the best intentions for those kids, and I'm excited to see what he can do with it. So our next steps, you'll confirm that hire tonight, or I hope that you confirm that hire tonight. The next steps are advertising for a JV and assistant coach for him. It's looking like there will not be a bantam team, and that we will pull those kids up to make a JV team. That'll be a little bit, I say JV team, in that they might not play on the same night as the varsity team, so we could, muster a whole JV team, and so a little bit of scheduling, finagling to make sure that we can get those younger kids some quality competition. I would hate to put them in front of a JV team that would be a bunch of 11th graders. So, because it's going to be a young JV crew. So, but Dallas is kind of scheming with me. We've talked about how to manage that schedule, that JV schedule in particular. Questions about that? You'll notice if you've been to the website, it looks different. Many thanks to Lisa and the Sandpiper Design, Katie Piper, and Courtney Hannibal primarily for making that happen. A lot of the same content, mostly a facelift, but it is an important way for how we communicate what's happening at the school and how people find, critical information to their experience and how they interact with the school. So I think we're quite excited about how it's turned out and that it's online. I mean, we went live a week earlier than we had even decided.
Unannounced to the public.
Yeah, right.
And people were running into the site not quite ready. We're like, we're working on it, you're not supposed to see it yet.
But it gives people an opportunity to get used to it, to try and poke around and find. Lisa's also combined that with a website scavenger hunt on the Facebook page, so she's had people going and digging to try and find other pieces of information. So some coordinated ways of getting people to interact with our internet presence. Okay, I'm going to add one thing that you'll see is also an add to your agenda. I'm going to do facility use. We talked about Ruby's Pantry, and then I'll finish up with athletic facilities update. So Ruby's Pantry is a food shelf organization working primarily in Minnesota and Wisconsin that distributes food to various community groups who then distribute, like a food shelf, who then distribute it to the community. Ruby's Pantry approached us here in the last month as kind of a last-minute situation and needing a place to do their monthly distribution. So they're doing it on the first Thursday of every month. Approached Jeff and I to see if they could use a stall in the bus garage. And we talked through it with Seth and Brad and decided that it was a good opportunity to use our facilities to help the community, and they were in the space. So you'll see, I think you've got a copy of the contract there. It looks very similar with a little bit of changed language to one of the daycare contracts. So it's got similar language in terms of insurance and liability, indemnification, all of that stuff. So the way that'll work is that Ruby's Pantry will show up with a truck around 2 p.m. on that Thursday, first Thursday of the month. They will offload it. They will not use our forklift because we don't have a forklift big enough for it. So the city, and as a backup, the county will show up with one of their employees and one of their machines to unload the food that comes off in pallets into the bus garage. The Ruby's Pantry, which is hosted locally by the Vidette Lutheran Parish, so First Lutheran, Bubonic, and Clemenson. We'll have a set of volunteers there breaking down the pallets, putting them into family-sized grocery. I think they're using shopping carts, but you get a package of food, and so they pull some of the cereal and some of the soup cans and all that stuff into this, and then people come through, and they actually sort of drive-through sort of model. So they'll come down the county road, people will wheel out these containers of food to them, and then they'll put it in their trunks and people will drive away. They're expecting as many as 300 units, so 300 cars essentially, to serve 300 families. That was part of what Ruby's Pantry kind of identified as potential need in this area. The closest one is the Falls to here, and there's not, I think the closest west is like just north of Grand Forks. So there's a lot, I think they're assuming that there will be a significant amount of, and Bemidji, there's a couple distribution spots in Bemidji, but locally, we are kind of the spot. So it's an incredible opportunity. It's definitely a need in the community for getting access to quality food. There will be some produce, little bit of dairy, I think, but I think that depends on what's available from the distribution center. So you will potentially be discussing and approving this. Like any contract, we do ask for outside insurance. Or proof of insurance, and so the Vedette Lutheran Parish will put us on their general liability, put the site, that is, on their general liability coverage. And so I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard from the church folks that that is en route. So I think Jeff and I were talking that it'll be approved pending receipt of proof of insurance. Jeff, anything to add on that, or questions?
This is wonderful.
Maybe you should mention that there's a $25 fee
Yes.
for a
It's open
box
to
of
anyone.
food, open to anyone, no income,
Oh,
and probably, there may be people who, they won't turn anyone away, but they do request a $25 donation for a unit of food.
Yeah.
And I did go, did you go to the meeting as well, Sam? I can't remember.
No.
But they talked about, that it's a great way for people to subsidize their grocery dollars.
Especially with increasing food costs.
Yes,
I just have a question about the insurance. We say proof of insurance, do we have limits or anything like that? And not that it has to be addressed tonight on this, but just in general, I know when we contract, like my office, when I contract with the state, we have to have, 2.5 million. They have like a base or whatever.
We have our umbrella insurance, but I can't remember what it is.
But we don't set any minimums or anything.
No, the language, if you look at page 2, this is what,
Right.
and that comes from our insurance provider as far as what we need to have so that their insurance coverage. So I don't know if we can set
a lot of times
their.
a contract will have that,
A minimum,
a minimum, like a 1 million, 3 million, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. It might be something to consider more future.
Yeah.
You know.
And, you might want to see, I would assume the church has a policy that would be
Yeah.
something in that,
If it's
range.
$1,000 or $1 million, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
something to.
I would assume the church, given the size of the operation that it is, it's not a event. I mean, we talked about, the insurance has been a question for the last week, them purchasing event insurance, which then I think we would run into some questions about what the minimums were. I feel a little bit more confident that it's the church's actual liability insurance, because I'm sure they carry a decent amount.
Yeah.
But yes, I think the thing that's interesting about this is that this is the avenue for them to use our facility on this is a very straightforward facility use request form, which is used for anyone from Jill doing volleyball camp to an operation like this. And obviously, an operation like this is a much more significant, not that volleyball camp isn't a big deal, but you know what I mean? Like, there's forklifts involved, there's pallets, there's a lot of bodies, and so
More liability.
there's just more liability than I
More
think. And that's, I
chance.
think, what Jeff and I were
Yeah.
running into in terms of this is like, want to make sure
Yes.
that we are covered in this.
Well,
While also not living in a bubble. That's the line we draw here all the time. We want to be open and available to these things for the community, but we also have to be careful about that stuff. So,
Yeah, I don't think Casey from Ballard put any dollar amounts.
no, we didn't. We did talk to a representative from Ballard, kind of asking his recommendation. And interestingly, you saw that email, he owns a building in Boston that runs a food shelf, not Ruby's Pantry, but a similar operation. And so he was like, I'm really familiar with this setup. So, yeah, which I thought was quite a nice connection. So. Okay, I'm taking up the meeting time, but last thing. This topic is a little bit of a flag for the future. I've had a lot of conversations in the last 6 months about some athletic facilities work that needs to happen. Track, we encountered a little dip in lanes 3 and 4 out on the track in the, I think it's the southwest corner. And so Kurt and Seth and I have been going around trying to figure out, what are some potential temporary solutions, everything from ripping out a chunk and padding it, or are there injections that we can put in, things like that. But which has brought up the bigger question of what's the future of this track. And I don't think that's a new conversation. I'm looking at Jeff on that. But knowing that the surface would need to be redone at some point, and what then is the state of the asphalt underneath that might need some attention. Seth had somebody come up, a guy who had worked for a resurfacing company, and they said, we're not comfortable redoing the resurfacing until we get some more detail about what's going on underneath, because it's got some waves going on in it. So I think the next steps for Seth and I are to get some core samples to figure out what is going on underneath. Trying to make sure that we've got a few big track meets coming up in the next couple of years, so making sure that it is runnable for sure right now. But we've got some, like I said, some flags for the future in terms of what's on the docket. Akin to that or adjacent to that, we are in conversation about purchasing with some capital money, new pole vault pit, the actual padding that kids fall into. The old one we have right now is close to 20 years old and has been re-padded before, and at this point is a safety concern. And so I think the padding is Jeff and I said, we're feeling confident about that, but the platform and the runway are starting to show some wear. Things like the frost has forced the platform where the padding sits and the plant box sits up slightly. So what happens is, if a kid's running down with their pole and the end of their pole catches on that lip before the plant box, there's some potential safety risks. So we think, again, that there are some options for short-term solution, grinding that lip down so that it's smooth, filling in some cracks on the runway, things like that. But in the long term, similarly, some things that might need to be addressed in terms of how that facility is aging. Baseball field was also on that list. We ran into a lot of water issues this year, as did the whole world, but the varsity field in particular, has always been a little bit soggier than the rest, tends to be the lowest point on the whole grounds. And so we are putting some Seth's team has put some black dirt down to try and build up that part of the infield. Putting some grass down, hoping that grows this spring, so we're not playing in the mud pit next spring. But some questions about if that continues to be an issue. Trying to figure out if there are better, more drain tile. I had people wanting me to move the baseball field, which seems a little extreme after just 1 year of that. But as a kind of note to the future in terms of might need some longer term planning and work that. So I guess there's no real action on that, other than to kind of bring it to your attention, and also ask when the next facilities and grounds meeting is, and I can get on stuff with that. But I think that some of this is, requires some attention, that if we keep putting it off, we're gonna get into a situation where we either can't hold a track meet or we can't have baseball games. And we actually did experience that this spring, where we seeded a home playoff game to Winnemac because we couldn't host a baseball game out there, which it was a weird year for sure, but it's not the only year it's been too wet out there. And not for lack of trying to get it. I mean, there were shop vacs. We legitimately shot back that field at some point. We were shoveling water off. I mean, really working, it was me, the coaches, the kids, working hard to try and get that playable. And, with limited success. So, I guess, any questions about that or any history about that? That's the other thing, is I'm walking in with 18 months of, not even a year's worth of knowledge. And I don't know if you guys have heard of that from other people before, or it's on your radar, but.
Comments, questions? I mean, the baseball field, you know that.
Yeah.
It's always been there, and that's the problem. The more snow it drifts right behind that dugout and that low spot, which is down the first baseline. It'll help put dirt in, but like you said, I'm not sure it's a long-term thought about it. I know you had suggested at one point at home that the thought about moving it over to the other side of the school, which certainly has some.
Yeah, I'm a little careful to bring that up in a formal meeting like this, but there was some conversation about moving the varsity field to match over to the other side, so that it gave us varsity softball and varsity baseball field next to each other, which I don't hate as an idea, but I think we got to figure out the short term where we're at right now, given the field, given the setup that's there, and then if we find that it's not working, then we consider some alternate solutions.
And I think that I pushed that discussion as much as any, because I had seen that in Boston doing the girls softball last year, where they used the varsity baseball and the varsity softball in the same field. They just put not a snow fence, but it looks like a snow fence where the softball needs to be, and then they remove it when they play baseball on it. So you do have a, overlap, right, duplicate, so you're not trying to keep an individual field for everything. So there are compromises, I guess, out there.
And there's some shared expenses happening when you think about putting lights up and power and, which are predominantly happen for your varsity level games, that, some camaraderie in sports in that way in terms of funding, things like that. So, anyway. Does anyone know, are any of you on the facilities and grounds? Okay.
I think Boyd's the better one.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's not going to be scheduled.
Yeah, but we can have one anytime. We
Yeah.
can get together with Seth and see
Yeah.
what you think.
Decide.
Go take a walk around down there.
Yeah, there's some long-term questions I think that we should be asking and trying to start the process.
Any more questions for Sam? Okay, thank you for a very thorough discussion.
Does thorough equal long-winded?
No, I mean, it was all pertinent information, that's just fine. Buildings and grounds, I don't see any. Seth, any talk on that?
No.
Okay, Billy Chambers, discussion?
Yeah, Bill's not here, but he does have some notes written in your board packet, as far as some of the projects he's been working on. Fiber install is complete, and he's waiting for, this is going to be a common theme, he's waiting for some Cisco switches due to supply chain issues. First grade through sixth grade have all had updates with their smart boards that have gone to J-Touch interactive displays. Those are all new units. Our door access installation, our fob system is going to be replaced, and that's been delayed again due to supply issues. And we don't know when we'll get for that. And we're adding some print stations. Alleviate some of the issues with some of our copy machines. And again, we have the places identified, but we have supply such a issue with that as well, so.
It's in progress, I guess.
It's in
but that's what
progress.
you do.
Plans there, just need the ship, set sail and get to port, so. I'm not gonna jump on the food service.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on, food service, Jill Olson, Jackie Pearson.
So the only thing is the state finally sent their adult breakfast and lunch minimum. So their adult breakfast minimum was $2.25, and their adult lunch minimum was $4.95. So talking to Sheena, we just decided, and Jackie, we just decided we'll keep it the same as last year. So last year we charged for adult breakfast $3, so that's 75-cent increase, and then from the state minimum, and then our adult lunches are $5, which is just a nickel. So I don't think there has to be any motion or anything on that, since we're just keeping it the same, as far as I understand.
Is it in the,
It's not on the agenda.
No.
I'm thinking we probably should set the prices.
Yep.
Should we just add an agenda item?
Yep.
I will add it as other business or right before other business. Number
We're just
8C,
adding under new business.
8E, approve
Or is it 8F? 8F.
meal prices as presented.
Adult meal prices, because,
Yeah,
8F.
you already approved the student one.
yeah, seems right.
Approve adult meal prices as presented, is that?
Technically, item 8F.
Yep.
Can I ask a quick question before we go into the regular? Election filing is done, right? And do we have people?
Yep.
Yes. So, I can't remember the district, but all of our former board members reapplied, and then we had one, I don't remember what district. Oh, it's
Okay.
We have
In
one,
Robin's district.
Okay, all
yeah, yeah, one for her district.
right, thank you.
But they can still write in, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But at least you're not totally relying on writing.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're, once again, Brad Abbey is not, so nothing from there. And with that, any other discussion? I'm going to adjourn the working session. Maybe we want to take a break? I don't think we're going to have a dramatically long meeting, but we shall see. But if you want to take a break, now
You
it's
want to
time.
present that to the school board chair?
Oh, when should we do that? I should order of the new
It's on
business.
the agenda.
Oh,
I think we actually got that one on the agenda.
You did, yeah.
She did it way back in October, right?
Oh. I was just down there and I was like, I had to ask Jeff, what did I do now?
Well, it was so long ago we forgot about it, so. I don't know why, it just, it's been here, and it's been, I don't know. It's not in the book, so my apologies.
I didn't even know there was like, I just figured I'd finished it, I was on the board.
Gotta get that
I
certificate.
need a certificate for everything.
Well, you did more than just breakfast.
all right, if you're ready, let's call the meeting to order at 7:10 and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, right into into the meeting. Need a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the additions as presented, which would be specifically 8F, the improvement of the adult meal prices as presented in the working session. What do I have as 8E?
Actually, I think that is AE. I think you were right.
80 is approval of the
Yeah.
Lutheran Parish user agreement.
Well, it's
No, I got
weird
that as
because
8D.
It's different from
Yeah,
the
it's different.
crib
E
sheet
is
to the,
approval of resolution.
the crib
School
sheet
board
says one
election.
thing and the
I know.
sure agenda another. So.
oh, because it's
We
A was
removed
eliminated.
approval of
Uh-huh.
the district state and person plan. So I think the original agenda cannot have A
Right.
as approval of district state.
Yeah.
All right, so the monikers might be a little off, but the
Yeah.
order is the same.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
Motion by Robita, second by Ellis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, which specifically includes the approval of the minutes, the approval of invoices, statements, and bank reconciliations, the approval of personnel resignations, retirements, and appointments. Specifically, the appointment of Dallas Block as this year's varsity head boys hockey coach.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Trask, second by Lyon. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We have no board presenters. Any written communications? Not yet. Old business. New business. I need a motion and a second to renew the lease agreement with Kelly Armstrong's Daycare for the term of August 22nd, 2022 to June 30th of 2023.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Robita and Ellis. Any discussion?
That doesn't match what I'm reading on the agenda. September 1, 22 to June 30th, 23. But
I've
maybe
got August 22nd on mine, but
Yeah,
On the crib sheet, but it's different on the,
on the agenda, right?
yeah, it's
What
a
do you-
month, it says September 1st on
Yep.
just the,
working session sheet?
no, this is,
On
it's
the
the board
agenda.
On the
meeting.
agenda.
Yeah,
The agenda says September 1.
Yep. So can,
to June 30th.
do we have the, can I
What
find
day?
it?
I've changed it to the 22nd because that's the day you'll sign, so
But,
that might be my fault.
yeah, we'd want to
It
look
should
at
be
the
September 1st.
effective date of the contract.
So do we want to, let's,
Pretty sure it's September 1st.
It's in the,
What we're trying to do is we're gonna do the short run. So they all are done, all the leases are done on June 30th. And then we'll start July.
oh, sure.
But I believe she started in September 1.
Okay.
No.
so I need a motion and a second to renew the lease agreement with Kelly Armstrong's Daycare for the term of September 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
That's the motion.
And I'll still second that.
Okay,
I'll give her that
have the
month.
same. Any discussion now? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I don't think we even need a motion to present the Leadership Development Certificate to Carla Robita, which, you did all 4 phases.
Yeah.
Nice.
Edda should get one too. She was there for everyone as well. They were all via,
Let me get out.
Oh, he attended with you, huh?
she did. She was, the other members got to meet her every meeting.
Here, you take that.
Say cheese. We gotta do it one more time.
I don't show.
I'm very important. This camera is far smarter than I am.
Yeah, nice job.
I
You
just
didn't get
think
those
it-
all in one sitting, did you?
No, it was like the phase 1 and 2 were in the spring and 3 and 4 were in the fall or something like that. So, and they were each over a course of so many Thursdays or something.
Because you did like all the online.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't, I didn't
Zoom.
have to go to the cities and all that jazz, so, which was kind of nice with a newborn.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, Ed has been.
Although one of the fun parts was meeting other people who still had that sort of deer in the headlight looks too, you know, when you're on my
Right.
school board, you know, can you convince me why I should be here? You know, that type of thing. But it was fun to see the other people who occupy school boards around the state.
And
You
that
know-
would have been fun, it really would, but it was kind of the same people in your same video
got to know
chats.
'em a little
So you
bit.
still got to kind of know them, you just didn't have that personal interaction.
Right.
But like I said, having a newborn, it kind of actually worked out in my favor instead of having to go to the cities.
Yeah.
Well, again, congratulations. Don't take
Thank
that
you.
lightly. I appreciate that. Okay, I need a motion in a second to approve the resolution for school board election.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Trask, second by Lyon. You all have a copy of that in front of you, I think. Okay, who's our election clerk? Is that you now?
Yes.
Do you have to get certification, or you just get pointed at for that?
I did go to a little training, but I emailed Eric quite extensively with this. I was like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Entertaining. And he's helped me a lot with it.
And we were talking about that maybe when you were here, maybe not, when Woody, we were first here, but how these school districts are different than the county districts, you know, in terms of that. But are you the one who's responsible for realigning us each year? Who does that? Or is that Eric's job, like a?
Oh, like redrawing the lines.
Yeah, because
to-
I think based on population movements and stuff like that. The county does that?
Yeah.
And you facilitate it so we can approve it, kind of thing.
Well, and then I think as well, I think there'll be additional election training that you can go to. I think that's usually in the spring, isn't it?
As far as I understand, I do stuff after the election. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, we ran into a snafu the last time, I can't remember what it was, but we were calling Eric like that night that we had to approve stuff.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
I don't know.
Wasn't it like
It
the
was
numbers?
the number of people,
Yeah.
the number of people
That's what it
that
was.
voted or something like that. I think
'Cause
we
they had
needed
it-
that for each district, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes,
Right, yep.
Some numbers were missing.
some numbers were
Yes.
missing.
Uh-huh.
So
I'll make sure I have all
Good
my
luck.
ducks in a row with
Yeah.
Eric prior.
Yeah,
He's a good source.
Well,
He'll
luckily
give you
he
the right
answered his
answers.
phone that night.
yeah.
Boyd called him, didn't he? Boyd?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I blacked out those two.
I just remember we had, yeah,
We made it.
yeah.
I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, because we had to certify the vote count, and we
had to
couldn't do
certify
it
the vote
without
count 'cause
knowing the
we couldn't
number
do it
right.
without knowing the number.
Yep, it didn't match up on something. All
Uh-huh,
right, fair
something
enough.
was- yeah.
All right, need a motion and a second to approve, we got that? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I need a motion and a second to approve the Badette Lutheran Parish user agreement for Ruby's Pantry.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
I'll
by Ellis,
second it.
second by Robita. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And I need a motion and a second to approve the upcoming school year's adult meal prices as presented in the working session.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ellis,
I'll second.
second by Trask. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. I have maybe where is it? Should I have done that on a roll call vote? It just occurred to me. I looked at the last page of
For the school district thing?
Yeah, I think I have to do that.
So we have the motion in the second.
All right, so we've approved the adult meal prices as presented. Motion carries unanimously. Before we leave, I think we do have to go back to the previous
To the resolution.
resolution.
Yep.
And,
On the school board election?
yes, school board
Yeah.
election
List.
C on the agenda that I have. But I will ask for an amendation of that motion. Can I have a second motion and a second to approve the resolution for the school board election?
I'll motion.
The motion again by Robita.
Did I second
You
that?
seconded by Ellis. Thank you.
Yeah, I did that.
No further discussion? Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. And I'll do it in the order presented. Chairperson Lyon, aye. Boyd Johnson, Robin Sonsgaard, Carla Robita,
Aye.
Lynette Ellis,
Aye.
Corinne Trask.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously.
It's missing an N, but that's okay.
Okay. I was like,
She has trouble with N. I've got an N missing too.
My keyboard does not work.
It must not. It doesn't have a memory.
Robin has her N.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
No worries, no worries.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be way worse.
Could have the wrong last name or
Those are
something.
little things.
Anybody interested in talking about any other business than the alphabet here? Okay, I'm hearing nothing, so let's adjourn the meeting at 7:22. Okay, turn your mics
Grabbing
off.
the crib sheet.
Thank you. This one, I think, is a battery issue, so I put it
Okay, yeah,
left.
I'll grab it.
Mine's not off.